Okay, Minister. All right. Okay. Okay, Minister. Yes, CG? No, you want to say something? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know we're running behind, a little late, but while you get comfortable awaiting the start of this evening's proceedings, I'm just going to ask you to put your cell phones on silent. Can you hear me clearly? Oh, just checking. No, you can't? Can you hear me clearly? There's an echo. Can you hear me clearly? All right, so we're asking everyone to put their cell phones on silent. I think there's some feedback. One, two. Thank you so much, everyone. We are most grateful for your patience. We now ask you to stand for the playing of the national anthem for the United States of America and Jamaica. I would now like to invite Pastor Andrew Bennett to come and bless this evening's proceeding with the opening prayer.
Let us pray. Father Adonai Rapha, we come to you this afternoon in thanksgiving, thanking you, Lord, for taking us out so far, taking us through this horrible plague, COVID-19. Lord, we thank you for those who have worked sacrificially to help those who are hurt. Thank you for those who have recovered. We intercede now, Lord, for those who mourn. And Lord, in the name of Jesus, we pray for those who languish because of the result and the falling out of this dreaded disease. We pray, oh God, for those who are now planning this initiative to help those who are in need. We pray for wisdom. We pray for the provision of resources and for the success of this program that is being launched today. We pray especially for the nurses from the diaspora that will respond. Pray for their protection, their strength, and we pray for a blessing upon their lives. Thank you, God, for those, oh God, who are giving to this project. We appeal, oh Lord, bless Project CodeCare. We pray for Minister Tufton and his team. Bless all those who will participate, and bless, oh God, our time together today. Be with us, for we ask it in the name of Jesus, O Lord and Savior. Amen.
You may be seated. Thank you so much, Pastor Bennett, Reverend Bennett, for that insightful prayer. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's presentation on Project CodeCare and Adopt a Clinic, two stellar initiatives being spearheaded by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. My name is Donna Brown, and I am the Administrative Attaché here at the Consulate General of Jamaica in New York, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies this evening. Having led several ventures focused on healthcare, the Consulate General of Jamaica in New York has mobilized support from diaspora members and friends of Jamaica to donate dozens of oxygen concentrators to hospitals, which will be handed over this evening, personal protective equipment to various schools and facilities in Jamaica, in addition to arranging for numerous volunteer nurses from the United States to lend a hand in Jamaica's healthcare facilities in the Consulate General of Jamaica in New York's first ever medical mission. Indeed, she has exemplified how all of us outside of Jamaica can unite to give back to our beloved island nation. With that being said, I will now welcome to the lectern Mrs. Alcyon Roach Wilson, Consul General of Jamaica, to officially welcome you, or invited guests, those here and online, to this evening's happenings.
Well, thank you, Ms. Brown. Um, I should officially ask everyone to give Ms. Brown a rousing round of applause to welcome her to New York. This is her first rotation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. So her first rotation outside of New York. She's now my new um, assistant, and she is now in the hot seat to MC for tonight, fresh out of Jamaica. And I think she's doing a great job, don't you think? Fantastic. So if you would like to use her service, call me. I'm the manager. Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. Good job you're doing. Minister Tufton, the Minister of the Minister, well, Minister Tufton, many persons does not know this, but he's actually my god brother. Yes, and he's our Minister of Health. And of course, we have our dear friend, Ambassador Brian Wallace with us. And Ambassador Brian Wallace is at the permanent mission upstairs, permanent mission to the UN. We have with us various representatives from our diaspora organizations. But tonight, we have with us our dedicated medical professionals. Tonight is all about our medical professionals. Of course, we have with us a very dear friend of mine, Miss Marie Millet. She is the president and CEO of MHHC, Morris Heights Health Center. And for those of you who do not know, Morris Heights Health Center was founded by Miss Verona Greenland, a Jamaican. Miss Marie, please. I was fortunate enough to be their guest speaker at their Image Awards ceremony about 3 nights ago, and was quite impressed to find out that MHHC now employs 550 staff medical professionals and have raised over 500 million US dollars, not Jamaican dollars, US dollars, to go towards supporting tuition for students that are based in the Bronx. So congratulations and continue the fantastic work. We also have with us Dr. Sandra Lindsay. Dr. Lindsay. Dr. Lindsay was the first nurse to receive the vaccine, you will recall. The first, and not only the first, but of course, Dr. Lindsay is a fellow Jamaican as well. And another very good friend of mine, he's the one that I call when everything aches. Dr. Maurice Wright, the chairman of Harlem Hospital. Dr. Wright. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful, wonderful good evening. I really, really appreciate everyone taking the time to be here tonight. I do understand that you could be elsewhere. We have our friends here from I just promised them that I will show up at the church, their church in the Bronx. And before the night ends, I'm going to ask for you to also follow in the heels of Reverend Bennett to also close with a prayer for us as well. I'm very excited about this evening's function as we have had a most productive 2 days of meetings and consultations with several of our partner hospitals, such as Hartford Healthcare, Harlem Hospital, and Westchester Medical Center, for the purpose of pursuing partnerships for bolstering our country's healthcare system. Today's event is very, very, very timely and most urgent, of course, as it calls for an immediate all hands on deck approach for expanding and strengthening our country's primary healthcare infrastructure, which can only be achieved through meaningful partnership with our invaluable Jamaican diaspora, including our medical fraternity. It is for this reason that it gives me absolute pleasure to extend an extra special welcome to our Health and Wellness Minister, Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, who will share with us how we all can get actively involved by participating in the first of its kind, and I really do mean this because I checked, the first of its kind of project called Project CodeCare. He also have a project that I hope he will touch on for us tonight as well. It's called the Adopt a Clinic initiative. As this occasion is being live streamed, whether you are logged in from the US or Jamaica, I would like to thank you for joining us as well. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, Project CodeCare, and the Adopt a Clinic initiative are essential undertaking that with our diasporas and private sector's support will save lives. Having seen the tangible partnership results of our historic landscape diaspora medical mission to Jamaica last year, and as Ms. Claudette Powell is sitting here, she was on that mission as well. I am even more convinced that both Project Code Care and the Adopt a Clinic initiative can and will improve our health sector. I strongly believe in this. Throughout the pandemic and beyond, our diaspora has been absolutely remarkable in joining hands to give back to our beloved Jamaica. I am therefore so proud of my Jamaican family and wish to use this opportunity to specially commend all who continue to sacrifice so much for those who are less fortunate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it truly means to be a Jamaican. And on this, our 60th anniversary, year of independence, I believe you will all agree with me that we are like the national theme for this year, reignite for greatness through partnership and brotherhood. It is for this reason that I am equally excited to see so many of our medical professionals and supporters here today, who I am certain will not only listen to our minister's call to action, but to also join as well as invite your brothers and sisters to help us to alleviate and expand on our country's healthcare infrastructure. Now, Minister, I see my daughter Vanessa in the audience as well. And Vanessa, I hate to put you on the spot, but being a nurse, I hope that tonight you will be the first to sign on to this project. Reverend, you don't know why I had to ask you for the prayer at the end. Thank you, Vanessa. And someone, please take all our information. Last but not least, I would like to thank my dedicated staff. including our counsel, Mr. Rochester. Where's Mr. Rochester? Mr. Rochester. Of course, our community relations officer. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we do not sleep. Minister came in this afternoon, he says, CG, you look very tired. I said, yes, Minister, I went to bed at 3 a.m. yesterday morning, and I got up at 4 so that we could pick you up in time to get to Hartford by 9 a.m. And we actually got there at 8. And then we started again today with Dr. Wright in Harlem, and of course, with Dr. Devon John up in Westchester Medical, and now here we are. So our staff members, I cannot, and I would not ask for any better staff members than the ones that I have here. And so I move on with acknowledging our community relations officer, Mr. Benjamin. Our vice consuls, we have Mr. Corey White outside, and of course we have Miss Paisley and Miss Walters. Our office manager, Mr. Gregory Stewart, he's the one that was, Mr. Stewart is not over there, but he's the one that was swapping out the mic. Mrs. Mills, Mrs. Clark Mills, and of course, you met our brand new assistant, Miss Brown, and our MC for this evening, and all our locally recruited staff. Most of these staff members, of course, are sent up from Jamaica from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, but we do have locally staff members as well. Our fantastic intern, Miss Ottman, and of course, did anyone taste the rum punch? No? Not yet. Ladies and gentlemen, you ought to try the rum punch. The rum punch is the best rum punch in the Northeast. Prepared by Miss Palmer. Miss Palmer is here somewhere, but Miss Palmer has been with us for over 30 years. Miss Palmer, yes, Miss Palmer. And Miss Palmer ensures that the food and the drinks is just right. So you want some sorrel at Christmas time and a nice Christmas cake, come see Miss Palmer. Miss Palmer, thank you so much for preparing the refreshment for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, all fun and joke aside, I am truly, truly happy to see everyone here tonight. And I do hope that you will listen to all that Minister and his delegation have to say. Dr. Minister's delegation, please come. Trisha? Miss Williams, where's, oh, there she is. Right. So Minister's delegation is here with us tonight. And so after Minister's presentation, please ask all the questions. So if you don't get the chance to ask Minister a question, so Minister have the delegation here with us tonight so that you can ask all the pertinent questions. Thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to us having a wonderful, wonderful exchange. One love.
Another round of applause for our Consul General. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a brief remark from our ambassador, Ambassador Brian Wallace.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. And as she said, I will be brief. I know that we have some really exciting things to talk about this evening. But I just wanted to focus on one thing. I'm absolutely thrilled that Minister is here. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of this organized by our hardworking Consul General and her team. And I just wanted to add this one thing. We are almost 60 years old as a country. And we find it really easy to critique and to tear down and to try and bring down attempts made and achievements sought. But we must also take time to acknowledge the success that we have, the strengths that we have, and the good that we have among us. Jamaica is a blessed country. We have talent coming out of our ears. We have among our governance structure some of the finest and most respected ministers of government in the Western Hemisphere. And we must be proud of it, and we must acknowledge it, because they are serving all of us. They don't serve one set and leave out the other. They are our Jamaican government. I am very proud. I have known Minister Tufton, and I'm going to expose my own age now, but for many, many years. He and I entered the political scene at around the same time, and I was barely out of short pants then. But the dedication, the crystal clear focus on what is best for Jamaica always is something that you can go to bed at nights and rest soundly, because Minister Tufton is in charge of health. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I can tell you that when the pandemic struck, I reflected very carefully on how fortunate Jamaica was to have such a steady hand in charge of that ministry during that time. And I'm going to say it, congratulations, Minister. You carried us through the most trying times a Minister of Health in Jamaica has ever had to deal with. And so now we move from recovery to building better. And that, I'm sure, is what today's event is all about. So I am Jamaica's ambassador to the United Nations. You all here tonight are Jamaica's ambassadors for health. And I urge you to absorb the information here, to carry the message forth with you to wherever it needs to go to make sure that this program is successful. Our people back home are depending on it. So thank you very much, and I wish for you all a very successful and productive evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Wallace. Stronger together for nation building. At this time, I would like to welcome Mrs. Trisha Williams-Singh, who will introduce our main speaker for this evening. Mrs. Singh is smiling from ear to ear. She has been waiting so long for this moment. Here it is, Mrs. Singh.
Thank you so much. Family, let me tell you, I'm smiling from ear to ear. That's why our CG is the best. I did not introducing my boss. So, no, happy to do so by beginning to say, Ambassador Wallace, you already introduced my boss. Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton is a hardworking member of the government of Jamaica. We all know very committed to any task given to him. Having said that, I'll also share that he is in a rush to get things done. Having said that, when he asks of you today, he wants us to respond quickly. He's joined by his team, our Chief Nursing Officer. Please stand so we all see our Chief Nursing Officer, Mrs. Patricia Ingram Martin, and our General Surgeon Consultant, Dr. Stephanie Leong. Thank you, New York. We're happy to be here. And without saying any more, please help me welcome Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tupton, Minister of Health and Wellness for Jamaica.
Thank you very much, and thank you. You may be seated. It's very unusual that Tricia speaks for such a short time, but I don't know if she got stage fright because she's in New York. But thank you very much for those kind words, and I want to say too that Brian was my older brother, so that you don't confuse the age category, right? But yes, he's a friend for a long time, man with a vision. I'm happy to have him here. Congrats. And to Miss Palmer, it is that's drinking making the rum. There's a lot of spirit in the room. I see passed over there, and we don't want to do an altar call, so drink the rum after after the event. But I'm happy to be here. This is really a good occasion. Good to see that all the chairs are filled, which means that persons have responded. Really want to commend my god sister and friend, CG Wilson, for her organizing skills, her and her team, of course. And yes, we've really put a lot in a very short space of time, and I want to credit her with the work that she's doing here in New York on your behalf, on all our behalf. She's a really hardworking person. I want to say to Vanessa that I need her to speak to my 3 kids because they don't respond, yes, daddy, when I say do X and Y. They engage in a court case as to why they should do what they do. So that's another good thing to congratulate you about. All right, so before I go into my particular issue, which was pre-introduced, and you'll see it on the screen here today, I want to make an announcement on behalf of the mission here and CG Wilson and Ambassador Wallace. I am told that it is with great joy and pleasure that Jamaica, certainly here in these parts, is now being recognized. August 6th, Jamaica Flag Day in the state of New York. And that's a big recognition. I'm very happy for that in Jamaica. You were saying? Okay, well, please stand for this announcement. It's a big thing. Want to recognize our Assembly Member Cunningham and Special Assistant Beckford, and this is the Assembly District of 43, Brooklyn, New York, for this important resolution that was passed recognizing us on our 60th Diamond Jubilee. So give ourselves a round of applause, and also thanks to for this recognition and for the hard work of our CG and our team for that. We look forward to the celebration. I know some of you will be in Jamaica. You may be seated during this period of time. And we certainly look forward to having you here. So I don't like podiums or even mics, but I know that there's a camera here that is streaming live online. So I'm gonna, now and then I might come out of the frame. So I want to say to those online, good to have you on board also, and looking forward to getting questions. I believe you'll monitor those questions. So I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but sufficient for you to understand why we're here, and then to allow most of the conversation to deal with the clarity of why we're here, and also to allow myself and my team to respond. I want to thank particularly those persons who I've met with even before now. I see about 4 or 5 persons in the audience, like Bishop and his wife, I think Dr. Allen and Dr. Harlem, Dr. Wright, of course. How could I forget Dr. Wright, such a prominent statue and an amazing tour at Harlem Hospital. Have you seen the artwork at Harlem Hospital? Anybody? All of you? Anybody? Well, I'm going to encourage you to go and experience it. It is amazing, and an amazing reflection of the history of, should I say, our people, which is worth experiencing and reinforcing. I also want to say that the Harlem Hospital is not run by, well, let me just say, Jamaicans have a strong hand. You know, that institution is governed. And of course, because of that, it's governed very well. So commendations to Dr. Wright and the team whom I met with today, and we really had a good discussion. So COVID is still here, but it's not such a big threat anymore. I think that's generally accepted. And during the COVID period, as was referenced earlier, Jamaica, like the rest of the world, was particularly challenged. Um, it was a novel virus, of course, so we had to get used to it, our bodies, our immune system, and the approach, the response had to be written as we went along. Unfortunately, we lost over 3,000 Jamaicans. But in the process, we saved many, many times more Jamaicans than we lost. And the health system, with all the challenges that we have, and let's accept that we do have challenges. There's no system that's perfect, and indeed none that could have prepared for COVID, even in the developed world. We were able to pivot, to adjust, and to do what was necessary to respond. But in doing that, we had to take some decisions around how we prioritize. Like everything else, when you have limited resources, it's a function of how you prioritize, which means some things will be at the top, some in the middle, and some at the bottom. And one of the areas that we had to prioritize is how we utilize our intensive care facilities or emergency response facilities, operating theaters, intensive care units, recovery rooms, because COVID was a clear and present danger, and it dominated the attention for persons who were so affected. And so we had to push back as less of a priority or elective surgeries. Today we have almost 6,000 surgeries that could have been addressed or substantially addressed. These are elective surgeries during the last 2+ years, but had to be pushed back over that period of time. There's a slide with the surgeries that are there. We pulled out the ones that are most dominant. Hernias, for example, almost 2,000 that are considered backlog. That's 6 months and over. Cataract, and the list goes on all the way down to dealing with the eyes. We are now in the midst of assessing the side effects of COVID and an attempt at building resilience in our health system to determine how we, in a sense, play catch up. And I think it's not unique to us either. Most countries are involved in that. In fact, public health is going through perhaps the greatest review that it has ever gone through globally because of the COVID experience. 3 weeks ago, I was in Switzerland at the WHO meeting, World Health Organization, and there is substantial assessment of how public health is structured, the various components, where we focus, what we change because of the COVID experience. In our case in Jamaica, we need to catch up on the backlog of surgeries. Now, the matter is further complicated by the reality that healthcare workers, because of the COVID experience, have become far more important and in demand, not just in the context of Jamaica, but in the context of the world. Those of you who are in the healthcare space will know that the laws of supply and demand are being applied in a more substantial way, and the healthcare worker has become far stronger in bargaining for their particular position, including their payment, salaries, including how they are recognized, and including where they work, because there's just not enough. In Jamaica's case, we have traditionally been a supplier of healthcare workers to the world, and certainly to North America, Canada, the UK. Since COVID, it has been far more in terms of the demand and the increase in demand for the quality workers that we have. So when you combine the need for the backlog with the increasing demand on our healthcare workers and nurses in particular, then you understand the reconciliation that's required in order to be able to do what is necessary. Simply put, we can't do it given the current arrangements that we have, the number of nurses, operating theater nurses in particular. So part of the assessment that we have engaged in, the team in Jamaica, is how do we catch up by structuring an arrangement that will address the backlog, while still recognizing that our healthcare workers do reserve the right, and I think they should, to ply their wares, to sell their skills, to live where they want to. And we are believers in the mobility of labor. I certainly am. This is not an attempt at being critical or be restrictive. It is an attempt at accommodation. And CodeCare was created out of that recognition, or should I say those recognition, those critical issues. So we have put a proposal on the table that is very straightforward, very simple, grounded in the need to address our challenges, but in the recognition that it requires collaboration as opposed to competition for the healthcare worker. And the features of CodeCare are quite simple. We say to our operating theater nurses, come to Jamaica for a short period. So structure your arrangements to come to Jamaica for a short period. We will pay for all your expenses, airfare, accommodation. We will even give you a short vacation when you come. So if you come at 7 days, you work for 5, we put you in an all-inclusive hotel for 2. A lot of rum punch, by the way, is served in all-inclusive hotels. Sorry, Ms. Palmer, but you have a little competition there. Or for 14 days, we put you in an all-inclusive for 4, you work for 10. We will arrange for the cases, the backlog, to be programmed in a hospital, an operating theater context. And so you know you are coming to do a number of cases. So you work for that period that you're required to work. After you have completed that stint and you relax for a day or 2, then you return to your substantial post. Very simple. So unlike in the past when we would have pitched the need for people to come as part of missions, to pay your own way, or to be critical of persons exercising the option to move to where they are comfortable or for economic purposes where it makes more sense for them. We are saying we understand all of that, but the current dispensation requires more collaboration than the other arguments that would have been advanced in the past. So I have been touring a number of states. This is my 4th stop. We were in Florida, we were in Atlanta, DC, and now here in New York. I'm heading back tomorrow. And the response has been fairly positive to date. There is an online application form for persons to go on and to just put in the information. We have arranged it so we can arrange for the work permits through the medical council or the nursing council, sorry, to be sorted out. And this is not restricted to Jamaicans, but to friends of Jamaica also. So if they are operating theater nurses in hospitals who are non-Jamaicans, as long as they qualify, then they're invited. We have also extended it to surgeons. So for surgeons who can spare the time to come in, then we are inviting you also to participate on the same terms and conditions. Now, what's the value of this program? The value of the program clearly is to achieve the ultimate objective, but also it will allow us to plan more precisely around the teams that are coming in. So we do get missions, and many of you probably have been part of missions in Jamaica or certainly identified with missions, but it can be ad hoc and therefore doesn't allow for the kind of predictability that we would like. So we want to know that every week a mission is coming in so we can manage the cases, manage the availability of the operating room, the supporting infrastructure, supporting people, and you also know exactly what you're coming to do so that you come in, you do what you have to do, you relax, and you go back into your context. Now, there are 2 targeted approaches to this temporary fix. And I say it's a temporary fix because I'll speak more to a more long-term possibility. One is to target individuals. And so if you are a operating theater nurse here, or you know someone who is, you could make that appeal, reference them to a brochure that we will hand out or to the website, and they can directly apply. But we have also been engaged in conversations with institutions, health systems, hospitals, because we do see a value in negotiating this arrangement with hospitals, with institutions, so that nurses who are assigned or engaged with these institutions can perhaps carve out space without being too disruptive for their institution, and where the institution can have some sort of a vested interest in this happening with the equal amount of predictability for planning on their side, so that it doesn't, we don't put them out or put them off. Now, it's important to get the institutions involved, and as said by CG, we have met with a number of health systems in Florida, Jackson Health, Memorial, and so on, coming down the line here to New York, where I've met with at least 3 over the last 2 days. Because we believe, I certainly believe in my post-COVID analysis, that the future of healthcare globally is going to require a lot more collaboration to strengthen the response to emerging or current threats, rather than competition between institutions or indeed between countries. Jamaica has been a major supplier of healthcare workers. And if one were to be extreme, one could say Jamaica has been a victim of the recruitment of healthcare workers, certainly in terms of the categories of specialist healthcare nurses. The reality, as COVID has taught us, is that health threats cannot be confined only to those countries who don't have the infrastructure to respond. In other words, we are vulnerable if one segment of our population or jurisdiction is vulnerable. COVID started in one part of the world, affected all of us. So did ZIKV, CHIKV, dengue, and all the other threats. Now monkeypox, God forbid that we have any major issues there. And so there is an argument to be made, and this is a second pitch I'm making to you now, that we really have to reconfigure how health is structured, utilizing the influences that we have outside of Jamaica. And we do have influence in this country in terms of healthcare. All the places I've been to, I've not only met workers who are at the operational level, I've met strategic authority, people at the higher levels of decision who I know can influence policy in their institution and indeed in their health systems. And I'm appealing to them that when they go around the boardroom, we need to now start a conversation as to how this new configuration can take place. There is an argument to be made that if we focus solely on how we preserve our particular health system or hospital, we run a risk of it becoming unsustainable. And indeed, in some cases, it is becoming unsustainable. When I spoke to a lot of the people, they tell me that the cost to pay workers, to find them even if they have the money to pay, is becoming increasingly difficult. I don't know if you know about the concept of the traveling nurse. Are there any traveling nurses in this audience here? Which really is a nurse that decides that they're going to be a free agent and move from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. They made a lot of money. We're not envious of that. That's a good thing. But it also creates the instability within the institutions, and a lot of the institutions are now trying to grapple with that. Our position is that beyond addressing the short-term fix that I'm proposing here, we need to find a way to strike agreements with institutions around how we broaden the capacity and the output of healthcare workers through training, and allow the healthcare worker greater flexibility through flexi contracts. So let me be a little more specific on one or two of the areas. Part of the bottleneck in Jamaica to train more nurses is the lack of faculty, because to qualify as a nurse, you have to have a ratio of faculty to students. The nursing council otherwise will say the quality is going to be compromised. And I know it happens here also. The shortage of faculty creates a problem. And I know it's a problem generally speaking. And one of the collaboration that I think is going to be necessary going forward is to use hybrid models, technology, in person to person, to expand faculty collaboration to train more people. We could train more nurses in Jamaica if we had more faculty. There are faculty members who are here who could train here and in Jamaica with the appropriate arrangements that are put in place. And we're open to that, and we want to promote that kind of arrangement. The second is clinical rotation, where, and hope I'm not insulting the intelligence and experience of the health workers in here, but for those who don't know, to qualify as a nurse, particularly a specialist nurse, you have to spend time practicing the particular area that you are studying. So it's not just a classroom issue, it's about spending time in the hospital around an ICU bed or a critical care room if you're training to be a specialist in that area. Jamaica is limited, as all small countries would be. So we can't put out more people because we have limited infrastructure for limited clinical rotation. And so the other appeal, I believe, for the future, which we should use our influence to support, is how do we create exchange programs to expand clinical rotation, where a Jamaican nurse could leave Jamaica, do 6 months or 3 months in a US hospital to qualify as a critical care operating theater nurse by virtue of getting their clinical experience within that jurisdiction, even though they would have done most of their training in Jamaica. So 3 years ago, I broached the subject and we pursued 2 pilots. So I know it's possible. We approached the UK government. I met with them in London, the health secretary, and got them to agree to a pilot where we sent 25 nurses in training to Leeds Teaching Hospital with 2 tutors, and they spent, I think, 5 months doing clinical rotation. Now, it benefited the UK because they were short of RNs. These are RNs, they're already qualified, but they are no advanced training. So they were working while they were training. So the UK benefited, or the UK patient. It was a highly successful pilot, and everybody was happy. We qualified our nurses. They were happy for the experience outside of Jamaica and so on. They had to come back because the government required it. We required it, part of the agreement. And the UK system is structured where it's not fragmented, as is the case with the US, where you have to deal now with institutions as opposed to the state or the federal government. We also went as far as China, and we sent 25 nurses to China in a Chinese hospital with their tutors to do, I don't remember if it was 3 months or 3 months. And they came back elated because they got the chance. Now there are some differences. The Chinese nurse has particular role, and it's not always the same as the role of the nurse in Jamaica. There's a little language barrier issue and so on, but they did the experience, they came back. I did some of the exit interviews, I met with them. The summary of that experiment is that there is possibilities and strong possibilities for this kind of collaboration to expand the pool. Because if we had sharing faculty and clinical rotation space, we could double the number of nurses that we train in Jamaica, as long as we had that kind of capacity training. I was hoping to expand it after post-COVID. When we spoke to the UK team in Jamaica, they said, well, listen, we are so desperate that we have abandoned the program. We're just recruiting. And they went as far as say last year we recruited 130 nurses from Jamaica. And what they do, as I'm sure it's done here, they waive the entry exams, pay off the bonds. They've made it very easy, put it that way. Now listen, again, this is not a criticism because people have to respond to their needs that they have. And those who are at the center of providing the response to that need have a right to determine if that serves their best interest. What we do know, though, is that if we collaborated in these ways, this form, we could actually expand the cadre of people. Some would stay here, some would go back. That's fine. That's quite fine. We would have a more satisfied nurse, I believe, or health worker, because you give them the option, a better trained one, because they have the exposure that's wider than just the Jamaican context. And added to that, and this is a third point, I think we should look at the possibility of offering flexible contracts to our nurses. And we are prepared to do a pilot on that, which basically would allow a nurse in Jamaica to work in the US for a period of time and to work in Jamaica for a period of time. We do it with farm workers. It's just a matter of doing it with a more skilled group. And I think the shortage is as intense as is the case with the agricultural workers or the hotel workers for that matter. So I would like to see the possibility of an MOU, the health system, that says, okay, we're going to train more. We're going to allow some to come for clinical rotation. At the end of it, we're going to give them a flexi contract. So they work 3 months in the US, 5 months in Jamaica. I think the Jamaican nurse would be particularly interested in that because the truth is many come here for economic reasons and maintain their strong ties with Jamaica and would love to take care of their little backyard garden 2 or 3 times a year while they earn the US dollars here and help the US patient also and the US institution. I think the time has come for us to push for that. And I am lobbying on my side to get it done at the policy level. And I'm commending or recommending to you that you consider and use your influence at all levels, the institutional level, the government level, because the truth is it does have implications for immigration rules and laws. And let us kind of think out of the box and find a way that can respond to what is clearly a problem that's not going away anytime soon. It's going to get worse because when you look at the global numbers, the projections are that we need about 20 million additional healthcare workers to deal with the demands on health globally over the next 5 to 7 years. And the training is not keeping a pace with the demands on the health systems. So you're going to find this kind of mass migration. It's not only Jamaica, by the way. When I was in Switzerland, I was told they have a unit there that monitors these things, that there are about 40 countries that are hemorrhaging badly. Some are even threatening to go to court. I don't know what that will mean to challenge countries that are recruiting. That's not our position. But it is a challenge that is affecting all of us. So the time has come for us to adjust and to think. So I am here on this CodeCare program, recruiting short-term stints in our hospitals and operating theaters at our expense. Isn't that rather unusual? And I'm here with asking for the collection of a collection plate. I'm saying, I'll pay for you to come to Jamaica. And you come to Jamaica, I'll make sure you feel all right. And no offense to Miss Palmer, but our rum punch by taste even nicer when you're on the beach, right? And then you re-engage. And then secondly, if we can find a way to hammer out some sort of agreement with institutions around a longer term arrangement, we would be happy to sit with you and to argue for some changes to the rules to do that, because I do think that will lift all. And we're really about the human race now. It's not just about Jamaica, it's about all of us. So that's one. The second is the adopter clinic. And I'll try to be brief on that. I know a lot of you are aware of adopter clinic. Adopter clinic is self-explanatory. It's an adoption. but you're adopting an infrastructure. So one of the things that came out of COVID was that primary health care has been reinforced as the bedrock of Jamaica's public health system. We do on average 3 million visits to health centers and hospitals a year. Not people, but visits. Well, 1.6 million of that are to health centers. We have 320 health centers across the country. And that's the ground zero, where the pregnant mother gets her assistance with delivery and care. You buck your toe and fall out of the mango tree down in Negril, and in the first place they rush you to is not sub hospital, they rush you to the Negril clinic to dress it, and that nurse in the blue uniform or brown uniform is your best friend, give you the immunization and so on and so forth. Every single one of us can relate to that, every Jamaican. When COVID struck, we had to depend a lot on those infrastructure, community-based infrastructure, because they are the ones who did the contact tracing, brought the information to people about protecting themselves, the social distancing, and so on and so forth. Indeed, next week, we're recognizing July as the month for healthcare workers in Jamaica. We're going to have a series of church services, series of other activities, different award ceremonies and so on, which we have put in the calendar, just to say thanks to the 23,000 or so healthcare workers, some administrative, some clinical, who really were the ones who kept us safe in Jamaica. And I really want to say to you, if you can reach out to a healthcare worker in Jamaica during the month of July and just say thanks or give them a little something, whatever it is, it could be just a thank you. It could be just some encouragement. And all of you are on social media and otherwise, find ways to just recognize and say thanks to them, because I really think that they have really gone beyond the call of duty. We're suffering now from fatigue and burnout, as most health workers are, but they continue to keep up with the challenges. But the Adopt a Clinic program is a recognition of the primary healthcare infrastructure. And it basically is saying, in keeping with your attachment to these communities that you grew up in, or just your recognition of the primary healthcare system, in keeping with the need to restore and reinforce the credibility of that level of healthcare, take on a health facility, some of them very small, and as an adoption. And the adoption means you put up a little resources in cash or kind. It's equivalent to about 8,000 a year US. Or 7,000, a million Jamaican. I know the dollar is shifting around, but it's supposed to be a million Jamaican. And we give you a needs list for the facility, and you either provide the needs or you provide the resources, whichever. We mount a plaque on the wall recognizing you for your adoption. You can adopt for between 3 and 5 years. You visit whenever you want. You can organize a work day when you go down for holidays. You can keep in touch with the nurse in charge. The report will tell you how many people are treated, that sort of thing. It's really an attempt at creating the emotional, exploiting the emotional attachment between you and the primary healthcare system, many of us who benefited from that. So far, we have adopted or had adoptions for 35 or so health centers. We are targeting 100 of the 320. And we are throwing it out to the group here who have not yet adopted. Some of you have. I see a couple of you here that you may want to consider that. Now, I know if you have a good backyard barbecue or a tea party, you probably can raise the support once a year, right? We're good at that. But it is a good cause. And I think this year, in recognition of the role of public health, certainly in the COVID period, an adoption of a health center would be highly motivational for the people on the ground and the communities that depend on those persons. I say one final thing before I allow you to speak. We are embarking on a very substantial expansion of public health in Jamaica. Like all other countries, we recognize that there needs to be more done. And this may be an opportunity for some of you in terms of your engagement. Over the past, I've been minister now for 6+ years. And when I became minister, we had approached the IDB for support for an infrastructure build out. Jamaica has not built a hospital since, let's say, 25, maybe more years ago. And it's clear that the infrastructure needed overhauling and equipment. And fast forward to today, we are embarking on the largest infrastructure build out since independence. In another few weeks, we're going to advertise for the tender document for a contractor to build out a 6-story facility at Spanish Town. That's a $6 billion expansion, the largest single government building in terms of expenditure. We've not built an infrastructure at that level of cost. It's going to have new operating theaters, more beds, and the designs are complete. We're just going to market now. The cranes are being mounted in Montego Bay at Cornwall Regional for a new 6-story, 250-bed pediatric and adolescent hospital. That's a Chinese gift that was committed many years ago. They had started before COVID, left their back. It's substantially Chinese, even though the government of Jamaica is contributing parts of it. And that's going to be the only adolescent hospital in the Caribbean. Of course, we have Bustamante, which is up to 12. This one will go up to 18 years. We're going to be doing a major expansion of St. Ann's Bay, Maypen. We're building 10 new health centers. We're now starting some preliminary work on a new hospital in the St. Catherine Belt between Portmore and Old Harbour. That's very preliminary. The others are committed. And we're also going to be building a 6-story facility at the University Hospital of the West Indies. Those designs are almost complete. When you combine that kind of infrastructure build out over the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be quite significant and transformational. In addition, we have awarded a contract now for health information systems to be established. Cable and Wireless is now networking 130 health centers and hospitals so they can talk to each other, facilitate things like electronic patient records, telemedicine, which will allow us to do what I've said here, the hybrid format. And we're about to award, I think, a contract for the software to be placed on the hardware to allow for that infrastructure to be in place. That will shorten transaction time and cost, and of course, be more responsive for the patient. We are looking now at leasing equipment as opposed to purchasing. And that will allow us greater maintenance of our equipment, our CT scans and those things, because we have traditionally had an issue with downtime because we don't have the technical skills to deal with that. The opportunity for you would be that, one, the new look system and infrastructure will require people to man it. One of the things we need to do is to really fast track training of specialists. And again, many of our specialists are trained here or Canada or the UK. They do the first degree there, they come here. So the adolescent hospital in Mobay, for example, will have to be manned by new workers. And we're creating the space for that. It will mean new services that can be offered, some cross-border services. It will mean new investment opportunities in terms of some of the infrastructure that is being put in. So I really want to say that Jamaica is at an exciting place despite the challenges. We are enabling our infrastructure in health to be better. And it's been a long time coming, but I'm happy to say that we're seeing some transformation that will be a good thing. What we would like to do is to get your involvement and participation and also support in doing the things that we can't do on our own. And some of the struggles that you're having also, to see how we can mutually benefit from some of those. Thank you very much. I'll stop there and take questions. Yes, sure. Oh, sorry, but what were you saying? It's an adoption, but if you abuse it, we'll take it away from you. We'll talk about that. But it's like owning, but not exactly. Yes.
team for this initiative. And I also want to commend CG, who I didn't acknowledge her in my prayer, for the awesome work that she has done since the pandemic hit and how she mobilized the diaspora to respond. Thank you, CG, and your team. My question is about two questions. Number one is the role of the church. We talk about influence, but I've not heard the church mentioned. And if there's anything that is true, particularly in the diaspora, is that the churches are filled, our churches are filled with nurses. And churches, nurses and members respond to their pastors. My suggestion is that we meet with pastors, talk to them about the initiative, and get their buy-in to kind of organize, particularly as it regards to the adopter clinic program, organize some of their nurses to join the program, because it's one thing to launch it, but the question is how we strategically get it in the community, the diaspora, and get the community to respond. The other thing is that I noticed from your frequently asked questions page that there were some requirements that I questioned. First of all, the certified birth certificate. What's the rationale for that?
The what? Sorry.
On the section on the requirements.
Oh, this is for the CodeCare?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The certified birth certificate and the certified marriage certificate. Why is that? And then there's another point here that says that if a person comes down to serve, a spouse, say it's a family is not welcome, because let's say a husband goes with a wife or vice versa, would they be able to stay in the accommodation that you have here? If not, and it says no here, if not, the question is why, and if not, it may limit you, because sometimes they like to travel together and you might have a pushback from that.
Look at the bright side to answer the last question first. You're getting a 50% discount. That's not such a bad thing. No, they can't. Well, that may be an extreme. They could, but the thing is that we wouldn't be able to take up the cost. So you'd get a 50% discount. That's a.
For the persons that are being housed by you, if a husband say wants to go with his wife to be housed, that wouldn't be an extra cost.
Some places do charge us. Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. Anyway, let me just respond quickly to but we can speak more about it. I don't know if Chief Nurse wants to comment on the birth certificate issue. I suspect it's probably a means of the medical council. But remember now, these things that you're providing, we're not asking you to go and make a case to the council. We're making it very easy for you. Once you submit, we have a project manager for this CodeCare arrangement. So they would go to the council and they will process. We have to be careful that people who come saying they are qualified to do X are qualified, because we don't want to impose on Jamaican people, less than qualified people. And believe it or not, you do have those cases from time to time. So there is a minimum requirement for proof of qualification that is required. But we're not asking you to. We will take the information, and if we have queries, we will follow up with you. And that applies to all applicants. On the issue of the faith-based organizations, the church, I'm a big believer in the influence and role of the church, particularly in outreach. Obviously, that defines Jamaica in terms of who we are and as a people. And the church has played a big role in our COVID response. I've met with them several times. In fact, one of the first groups I met with when the first case was discovered on March 10th, 2020, was a pastors at the Turnover Hotel, probably about 200. And I've since met several times all the denominations to get them to support vaccination, get them to support the protocols, the distancing, the sanitizing, and so on. To get them to do community outreach, because of course, powerful in the community, the influence. In fact, just before I came here, I had a meeting, a closing ceremony, if you will, with a group who were mobilizing the church to play a stronger role in influencing health-seeking behavior in the community. About 200 pastors were there because of the health profile of Jamaica, which is very dominant NCD related, lifestyle diseases, hypertension, and so on. So really what you eat, lack of exercise. And so we see the church as an important partner to supporting this. And indeed, as Pastor Bishop here will tell you, I was with him worshiping on Sunday, he and his wife and his congregation, Bishop here, and did make a pitch. And today he organized a phone call with his group. I didn't even know he had so many, I'm gonna need you to, I was gonna say help me to campaign next election, but no, that would not be appropriate. No, but he has reached his denomination, his group, as all the churches. The Seventh-day Adventists, we communicate. So yeah, the church is important to play a role in this program and in other programs, and we're doing that. Yes, of course, and they've also adopted the Gordon Town Clinic. So the outreach is strong. And Bishop, you can elaborate a little on that. I might need a testimony from you to convert some of these people here on the adoption. Somebody had their hand up at the back. I'm not sure whether it was a gentleman or the lady first, but normally we give ladies the preference, right? Go ahead. the we have selected 4 hospitals to start with, but it will expand. So we have Bustamante. There's a large pediatric list, waiting list. Jubilee, Sav, and Spanish Town. So, but there are also some private hospitals who we intend to bring in, like Hospital in Montego Bay, because they have the operating theaters that are working, functional, and they have some surgeons who also have downtime. So it will expand over time, but those are the ones we're starting with. In terms of where you stay, it will be somewhere safe and comfortable. So maybe it's a Pegasus in Kingston, and we're not going to compromise your stay location or your safety or anything like that. And in terms of the all-inclusive, you probably have a choice of a few. And there, as you know, there are a few on the island. Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here. And C.G. Wilson, thank you for taking us to the historical occasion. My name is Dr. Trevor Dixon. I'm part of the Georgia Foundation. And I'm happy to see that many of our nurses who went on the COVID-19 mission last November, they're here tonight. And so the physicians who were on the COVID-19 mission, they're here tonight. I didn't give much acknowledgement of them, but I want to just acknowledge them here. And we should give them a round of applause. These are truly I thought that mission was a very successful mission, considering the amount of physicians who were able to come from the United States, the nurses also who were able to come down to Jamaica. As you know, one of the challenges I'm glad to see that you guys are addressing it, the nursing certification. I was happy to see that's one of the issues, thank you, that she's looking into to see how she can streamline that to make it more efficient. Mr. Courtney Cephas, as you know, you're one of your colleagues and a strong man in the ministry. Mr. Courtney Cephas has done an extremely exceptional job in putting together that vision, which I'm sure you're aware of. What I want to ask you, in addition to is, I'm happy to see that the ministry is doing a lot when it comes to collaboration. And one of those questions, collaboration would mean teamwork on both sides, give and take on both sides. So I'm happy to see that you're open to collaboration. And the question I want to ask is, these surgeons who are coming to Jamaica to offer their services, is it possible that they can come as a team, as a surgeon with their nurses? But I find that surgeons.
The answer to the question is yes.
Yeah.
If you have a team that fills all the requirements, then we can do that. In fact, at Harlem today, our surgeon there, Dr. What's his name? Dr. Wright, huh? Donald, yes. Donaldson, Dr. Donaldson, yes, had indicated that he could mobilize a team and come as a team. And he has done several in Jamaica, so we'll be happy to do that. That makes it easy. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but we don't want that to become a requirement. So it restricts those who may want to come on their own or come with it as a peer or something like that. So we're open. It has to be a flexible approach. Remember, no, this is a first time. What we're doing is trying to pilot a process that could become standard. I'm hoping it will. Certainly the flexi contracts. I think that's the way to go. So we're going to tweak it as we go along to get the best fit. All right, there's a gentleman at the back, and then I'll come on this side. Okay, just let me hear it. Yes, sir, go ahead. What do you mean anonymous? Synonymous. No. Well, no, they are, yes, people they are, but they are different types of health centers. They offer different services. So there are categories. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not yet. Not yet. Yeah. We're going to remove some of the old buildings. We're going to move the pharmacy. We're going to move a number of older buildings and do a greenfield site to construct the 6-story. Right. So I did say when I was speaking that we're now in the early stages of developing a hospital, a new hospital in the St. Catherine, that belt between Portmore and Old Harbor, where there's a lot of development taking place. So that is now in the early stages. All right. Thank you very much. Let me get on this side now. I saw a hand up over here.
Before you take, there are a couple questions online. Marvina Irons wants to find out where can she get information specifically online about the Adopted Clinic project. She's searching and she's not finding it.
All right, we're going to put up the website on the screen, but it is on the Ministry of Health website. There's an address on the Ministry of Health website, but you want to just put that up on the screen so we can look at it. Yes, Nurse Lindsay. Right, so it includes. So I'm going to ask Chief Nurse just to comment on that, but it does include some post care also. Chief Nurse, you want to address that?
Thank you very much, Minister, and good evening to everyone. Yes, it does include the post-operative care nurse. So it is the operating theater nurses first. Those are the ones we're looking for are those that would have had experience in scrubbing for 4 of the cases that you would have seen. So while we have a list of cases that we have the backlog in, there are 4 there's a set of 4 that we are concentrating on: the hernias, the fibroids, the ENT surgeries, and also the plastic surgeries. And so we are looking for nurses who have experience in scrubbing, are familiar with the instruments for these cases. When they come, they will be scrubbing, passing the instruments to the doctor, because we know that it is a short window, it's a short period of time, and we may not have the time to do a full orientation. So we will limit those persons to be with the surgeon, and then the registered nurses who are local nurses, they will be the one who circulate and run and get the things that are necessary and so on. So yes, we have those nurses, and also the post-anesthetic care nurses are also needed. Thank you.
Thank you. And the plastic surgery is not to look pretty, it's the reconstruction from trauma or other related ailments. Let me see if there's anybody else on this side, and then I'll come back to you. Yes. Um, you mean for this particular program or general question? That was not thought about, to be totally frank. It is something that we are getting into, and the new dispensation is going to allow for that with the build out and so on that I've been telling you about, the equipment required and so on. But if you have a proposal that you think could solve the problem, again, I think this is a brainstorming session, so just submit it to me and I'll look at it. I'm not going to refuse any good suggestion as long as it's clinically sound. Okay. All right, let me come back over here. I'm going to start with the gentleman there, then the lady at the back. Well, you spoke already, so you have to come last, and then I come to nurse. Go ahead, sir. When we have met our goal of CodeCare, and I say when because I believe that with God all things are possible. So do we have enough resources or any strategy in place to make sure that we have a demand that is sustained as far as surgeries are concerned? Sustain surgeries. Yeah. But I don't want to get into a long discussion around public health, but I feel like I'm a doctor now, having served. Well, I am, but not the right doctor. I have a PhD, not a doctorated medical science. But it has also taught me a few things. My experience in public health for 6.5 years at the policy level, and my social sciences background, which is behavioral science. A lot of the challenges that we face in public health today, in Jamaica and indeed in the world, is unsustainable in terms of the response if we do not get people to change their behavior. Because the substance of our curative measures, the extent to which we respond, the cost of medication, cost of infrastructure is increasing at an alarming rate. I just looked at the NHF budget for medication, spoke to it in the sectoral. And over the last 5 years, it has gone up almost 70%. Cancer rates are growing very fast. Cardiovascular disease is still a leading cause of death. The cost of chemotherapy, it's astronomical. And the truth is that you could slow down that growth or indeed sometimes eliminate it. We all die at some point, obviously. But certainly in terms of premature illness, if we spend more time on prevention and nudging people into healthy lifestyle behavior. So in Jamaica, we are pushing that. I've been very big on NCD response. So we are pushing tobacco legislation, coming with that soon. We have a green paper, which is a discussion paper, not a JLP paper, right? Just to be clear. Discussion paper to turn policy. It go green and white, then it becomes policy. On alcohol abuse, we drink a lot, as you know. We are doing baseline studies now on salts, sugars, and fats. We have announced a timeline for the elimination of trans fats in our foods, which is eliminated here. Trans fats are banned, but we still use it, which is a major source of cardiovascular issues. We have a better for you menu that we're introducing to restaurants so people can see healthier choices. We have the Jamaica Moves program in schools. We just tabled, myself and Minister Faber Williams, a nutrition policy in schools, which will now require the canteens in the schools to serve the kids along a certain nutrition guideline, because premature illness is a big issue. We did the sugary drink in school reduction. All of these are geared towards creating an environment that gives people healthier options. Now, it's a roundabout way to answer your question about sustainability, but the point I'm making is, if we don't get people to change the lifestyle, the health costs are going to continue, and it's going to be very difficult to keep up with it because it's going to be unaffordable. And I don't think that's unique to us. In this country, you spend almost 18, 19% of your GDP on health. And there are degrees of inequality here. We spend 4.5%. We do commit to universal access, but the quality of the access is what is the challenge. If you go there and you get the hospital, but you don't have the machines, then access is limited. So we're going to need to do that. If we can strike a balance between lifestyle and infrastructure, if we can do that, then I think we can achieve the objective that you've set. And I think now is a good time to do it. All right, the lady at the back, yes. If it's only for... Oh, okay. I mean, you want to respond to that? I have to lean on the clinicians to give me all of those.
So for now, we are looking at just the registered nurses, persons who are able to perform their duties autonomously. The texts are not yet covered under the Nursing Council of Jamaica. So we have to utilize just those persons who are covered for now under the Nursing Council of Jamaica. So in the future, it is something that we are moving towards. Internationally, this is where we are going, where the Nursing Council has, or the councils are really recognizing these persons. And so the Nursing Council, they are also looking at it to see how we can get them under the legal framework. But for now, they are not there yet.
So if there's a way that you can,
yes, certainly we will look.
One of the things for the future is really to define the categories of healthcare worker and further break it down into more specific division of labor. If it's very difficult to deal with the nursing council, sorry, but it's true. They're very, they're very rigid, but I understand why. They're trying to maintain standards. They don't want to compromise people's lives and so on. But I do believe that we need to create more categories of healthcare worker so that you don't depend on one category to do too many things. So for example, we are now moving with legislation to empower advanced nursing practitioners to have limited prescriptive rights, something that's done in this country or certainly parts of the country. The doctors are not in agreement for the most part, but I think it's necessary because when you go to some of these health centers in the rural parts, the only person there is an advanced nursing, right? Who, by the way, the doctor call and say, write the prescription and give them anyway. But it's just not formalized. So we're doing that. And I've been talking to CNO here about meeting with the council, which I know a discussion is taking place around how we break out the categories for the new dispensation. So we have the assisted nurse, the assistant nurse, the nurse's aide. If we train them around specific things, you have a bigger army to do some of the work that is required. All right, sir, you get a second. Oh, no, sorry, it was Claudette. Yes, yeah, go ahead. No, just let us know.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Claudette Powell, and I chair the Jamaica Diaspora Health Sector here in the Northeast. It will be quite hard for me to sit there and not introduce myself to you, because everything that I've been hearing some questions, and I want to let you know that we work closely with the Consulate General Alcyon Wilson. So if you ever have to reach me, I'll be able to share my information. You can always go through the consulate. Someone asked about the adoptive clinic. The Northeast has been spearheading that. We have already gotten about 5 adoptees. New Testament was one of them. So my role, I pushed all these initiatives. If you can't reach me, you go through the consulate. As far as the project CodeCare, we've already begun to do that. Again, collaborating with the consulate. And it's word of mouth, anything that we can do, not just Jamaicans, but friends of Jamaica. Reverend Bennett, I like your idea about going to the churches. I might even ask CG to set up some appointments and I can go there and speak. So this is what the information that we want. So although I'm the chair, I'm welcome. Just let me know. How should we do this? We're very successful in leading these initiatives. I know you have the West and the South, everybody is doing their thing, but I have to say that the Northeast is really working well, and that the fact that we have the support from the consulate. And if you want to write my phone number right now, I can give it to you. Ready? 516-459-2903.
516-459-2903. Thank you.
And engagement, that's the key word. And an ambassador, I got that from you the other day, the meeting at the embassy.
What was
You're
that?
all ambassadors for these programs.
Of course. Yes, sir. That's your second, right? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm very passionate about Jamaica. I'm from Manchester, which is your parish, I know.
Yes. But you never went to Manchester High. No, I'm saying you never went. Unfortunately, but go ahead.
Anyway, I just want to say this is a great first meeting. There are a lot of people who should be here who are not here. Dr. Roy Street, he's pretty much the Montefiore link that you've had for so many years. I don't see Dr. Robert Clark here. A lot of people who are not here. And actually, the media outlets.
Doctor, may I just introduce Dr. Dixon? Dr. Robert Clark, Dr. Street, there were all four. We only invited, let's call it medical professionals, especially nurses and doctors. Dr. Robert Clark sent us a list with, Christopher, 4 names? 5 names, we received 5 names from Dr. Clark. He is not able to be here today. He sent me a message. Dr. Roy Street actually did not open the invite. There are many medical professionals, Claudette was supposed to.
Invited them too.
Yes, okay, well, so I thought it was supposed to actually submit a list, but, wasn't able to. So we invited.
I understand, but email, like, I got an email very late, which is how people communicate, besides word of mouth, email. So the email addresses need to be more, up to date. So
Anyway, but let me just say this. Let me just say this. Let me say that I am happy, guys. I'm happy you're here, and you sound like a man who talk a lot. So I want to ask you to forward and help others to know what we're about, because guess what? As I say, all of us are ambassadors, right? And we're going to promote it online and so on and so forth. So I think so far this looks good. We would have to have standing room if more came. So let's just push others. Yes. Of course. Yes, they are. They are. Any questions on this side? No? Yes, sir. You have a question? Not too bad.
Years ago, I had the opportunity of being one of your students at UAE.
Taught you? You passed? Well, you're in marketing now, so that means I had a good influence on you. Anyway, good to see you.
But I have a question that pertains to legal issues.
Mm.
I know that we're in a climate that's very litigious. With nurses from New York. Yeah, I'm saying I know we're in a climate that's very litigious. Whether it's in America or in Jamaica, everybody's catching on. So if you meet in a car accident,
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
you get an orthopedic surgery done, and your foot is not back the way it was. People, retain counsel and medical malpractice and so on. It sounds like we Jamaica are gonna need some sort of special sort of insurance product.
You mean the person's coming in?
Right.
Yeah, that's accounted for. So the first thing is the screening. So that's why we have to make sure that the nursing council or medical council, as the case may be, vets the applicants to ensure that they are board certified, etc., etc. And then beyond that, they come in under the auspices of the ministry. So whatever protection is offered to a worker would be offered to that. Yeah.
Perhaps there's kind of probably need because if someone is from here and they go to Jamaica and let's say a doctor operating a patient down there
Mm.
and the doctor is here, it could result in them retaining counsel here based on jurisdiction.
Who would return to the in council?
The patient in Jamaica retaining counsel in America to sue the doctor.
That would not apply. As I said, those persons would come in under the auspices of the Ministry of Health. So if there was an issue, it would be dealt with at that local level.
It's just that I'm just trying to make sure that
Yeah.
that's accounted for.
Yeah.
Those sort of things. That have to do with that.
No, man, we're gonna deal with it. And I know you understand all of that from the marketing classes, right? Yeah. So, yeah, we're not gonna yeah, we're not going to compromise the. We have an obligation to, and trust me, we know about litigation. We get a few every month in Jamaica from Jamaicans. All right, let me before I come back to you, Miss Claudette. Is there anybody else who? Yes, and then I'll come to you at the back.
Thank you, Minister. Good
Sure.
evening, everyone. My question is, you touched a little bit on education in terms of faculty and clinical training here. Where would I get that information so that I could,
Ye-
offer my service to
Which institution you work with, if you don't mind?
Montefiore Medical Center?
Okay. All right. So the longer term arrangement, I need to center myself so I can see the people on this side, the folks on this side. The longer term arrangement is around a proposed MOU that we would need to negotiate. So if there are institutions that are interested in doing faculty exchange or clinical rotation, we have actually drafted an MOU. I think you have it, right? CG has it. So it would require that institution to maybe look at it. It's a draft, and then maybe tweak depending on what area they think they can participate in, and then a conversation would have to take place, which we can do via Zoom. So we could start with whether there's an interest, then what the proposed details of that could be generally, and then we zero in on the specifics, and then we have a conversation on that. Okay, so keep in touch with CG. That's the answer. The lady at the back, yeah.
That we do have a school from the Ministry of Health in Service Education Unit, and so from time to time we have nine training programs that are run by that unit. And so right now we are extremely short. So if persons, minister, on a personal basis would like to assist us, the faculty, sure, then we can have that level of communication going forward.
All right, let me see if anybody on this side, and then I come back. Nobody with your hand up. All right, just want to know I'm not forgetting you over here, right? Yes.
I know that nurses and doctors are coming down for a very short period of time. Will the nurses in Jamaica be in training as well so that we can upskill the nurses that are there? Is that a part of the program?
This is for the short-term program.
The short term.
It's not intended to be a training program. There's an orientation. The orientation is more for the visiting nurse because there are nuances to our setup. I've been in some of your hospitals over the last 2 weeks, and only sandals beat it in terms of the the appearance. So they look like hotels. I'd like to be a part of those hospitals in Jamaica. So, I don't want you to be too shocked when you come in, even though I will say that we have good facilities, we have excellent doctors, and the facilities work, right? Remember, we're 4.5%, you're 18, 19%, so you spend far more. But anyway, the point is that there'll be an orientation, as was said by Chief Nurse, to explain the situation. We'll use the technology to do like the prepping for the cases prior to. So you'll have an idea as to what you're actually coming to do. And we would have our lead surgeons, for the most part, doing the primary procedure. So it will work out that way. The training is a different thing. That's the clinical rotation stuff that we spoke about. Well, there's not a lot to learn as it relates to this program, to be totally frank. My non-clinical mind tells me that the real issue is the absence of bodies to do the procedure. So it's not, that's why I was saying, it's not really a training knowledge transfer objective. The objective is to get the cases done. And indeed, many of the cases are relatively simple. It's just that you can't do it unless you have the people. And we have deliberately chosen the simpler ones, so recovery, the probability of recovery can be a lot quicker. So the post-operative care will not be as extensive, and the probability of complications will be minimized, so that we can start and close each case relatively quickly. All right, I'll take you, and then I'll go back to the lady at the back there.
How will you know, how can you follow up, or what kind of continuity would you have to know the pathology if there was a, cancer or something that came about? How would that continuity continue?
Well, the program is going to be closely managed and the results recorded. Again, the intention is not to assign the burden on a nurse to carry that patient's recovery with them when they report back to their place of work. So there is a continuity that may be very limited, maybe more out of curiosity than any assigned responsibility. So same. I mean, we will work with a local person who understands that their role is going to be to take on the post care to the extent that that is needed. But if there is an interest, we can always do that, because there's going to be a secretariat that manages this program. It's not going to be left to the general system to manage, because we see problems with that. There's a lady, I think the lady at the back, yes. Support staff. Right, so this program that we're speaking of is primarily linked to surgeries. So that we're targeting those skill sets. As was said earlier, there are other categories of nursing that are in short supply, but we are working on other more medium to longer term programs to training those persons. Anybody else who have not yet asked a question? Yes, sir.
Rabbi Levy couldn't stay.
Right.
But there's a few things that we'd like to go over with you. We have been the largest donors of medical supplies to Jamaica from 2004 to present. Most recently, we made one of the largest donations to the Manitoba Hospital. We've met with Consul General, and I'm very glad that we have. But throughout the years, have been very instrumental in assisting us. The Rabbi would like to know.
Yeah, I'm hearing. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
He would like to know, there are certain precision instruments that they would like to donate to Jamaica, but we've been having some challenges in passing certain areas. So what we have done is yield that to Europe and some other countries.
Right.
But we want Jamaica to be the recipient most of all the stuff that we have. We've been doing this for a while, so I kind of yield the company Medcare to be able to do that. So Dr. Tufton, we want to be able to pinpoint, talk specifically to one person to say, Mary, we have 100,000 supplies of
Got you.
ABCD. How can we get it to you? I know it might be some data issues, but tell us what to do.
Okay. So one of the things that we did, certainly during my tenure, is to make it a lot smoother and easier for people to give. We start on the premise that people shouldn't have a hard time giving. I mean, if you're giving, you should make it easy, right? Not everything you're offering we will want, though. And I think that's important. So there are some protocols around how we gift. And the first thing was to establish a permanent structure within the ministry that would allow for giving. And so we have a registered charity that's in the ministry called I think it's on this thing here. What's it, the new name is what? Health Life for Health and Wellness Foundation. It was the Health and Wellness Foundation before. Anyway, it's a registered charity. I just appointed a board, and it's a very good board. It has private sector people, public sector people, and so on. Very good board, chaired by a senior manager at one of our major banks. It has a secretariat. That's Mr. Cephas, who heads that, and they are now setting up their own office. They have a budget. We're working now on setting up a website with all the programs. They manage the Adopter Clinic program. And the idea there is that anything you have to give, you contact the foundation, you support, you suggest what you're giving, and they will vet it, give you a feedback. Because again, the problem with some of the challenges that have been the case in the past, that people turn up at the airport and then want help, and they ship the medication in a personal name. Medication is not done like that because you have to have approvals. They ship a vehicle that's 25 years old and say we must clear it. The rules don't allow that, that kind of thing. So you really need to go through that foundation first, and then you can ship in the foundation's name, or if you have another registered charity to qualify for all the custom duty write-offs and so on. So it is far easier now to give. Anybody has given recently and has had no issues at all? Yeah, there are one or two people. So yeah, talk to Claudette or speak to me after or to my team, and they can assist in terms of that.
That when they're giving the items, they really should have a receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I said the Health and Wellness Foundation. You had a, yeah. Oh, you have another question. I wanted Bishop to come and tell me about his adoption at Gordon Town, and just give me a little 1 minute as to why you did it and what your congregation, either of you or both of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. I'm Paul Peart. I'm senior pastor of New Testament Temple in the Bronx. I've been out of Jamaica now for about, over 40 years. But occasionally we go back, of course, to eat some mangoes. But as to motivations for adopting the Gordon Town Clinic, one of them, of course, is that I think as a child, I spent some time getting health care in Jamaica. One of them I do not remember, but one of them I do recall when at the age of 7 years old, I fell through a window and burst my head and was brought to the hospital in Spalding's, Percy Junior Hospital. And they did a good job, I think, in patching me up. I have some fond memories of that stay. The thing is that when you have suffered any kind of trauma in childhood, it does make an indelible impression upon you, such that when a need arises later concerning that area, you can't ignore it. You have to respond. And so when we heard of the Adopted Clinic program, it kind of coincided with that line in the Jamaican national anthem, stir response duties call. And so we mobilized our church to adopt a clinic, and we did so. And last year, in fact, we went to Jamaica last year, and we got the privilege of going to Jamaica House to have the launching ceremony. So we just came back from Jamaica last week. There we had the opportunity to actually go to the clinic to view what was being done. And so we can say that whatever money we gave was put to good use in terms of painting and upgrading the facilities. And so we were pleased with that, and therefore can come back with a positive testimonial. In fact, we are trying to arrange now with the rest of our denomination here in New York, as well as across the Northeast and across the country, a Zoom call possibly with as many pastors as possible to be exposed to the awareness of this, so that they can also sponsor clinics also, and also support the CodeCare program. And so we endorse from New Testament Temple Church of God in the Bronx. Thank you very much and good evening.
Thank you very much, Bishop. And he's here with his delegation, his wife and his senior pastor at his church, and his wife. And I worship with them on Sunday. I want to thank them again for the opportunity. And it's some ackee and saltfish, they say after, by the way, and some white yam. Where you get that white yam from? Is Hanover it come from? I don't know how it reach here. Okay. All right, let me just say that, by the way, that not everybody will have the privilege of going to Jamaica House to get their adoption done. But just for the record, what happened is that there was a road, the road was cut off to go to Gordon Town for a long time. And they came to hand over at the site, which is not where we normally do it, but couldn't access the facility. So in a sense, that tragedy facilitated a special preference for them. But it went well. It went well, and I did go back and visit. But it's a really good program. I'm taking one more question, and then I'm going to take 3 more minutes to say 2 other things, and then I'm handing over to Madam Chair. Yeah, am I allowed? Thank you very much. Yes, sir. A question, one. No, BlackBerry kind of going back. Anyway, go ahead.
I noticed there are some folks here who work for the New York Health and Hospital Corporation. Dr. Dixon was such person, and I have to get my health care at the hospital, Jacoby. There's a system they have there called MyChart. It's an amazing thing. Amazing. I can get everything on my phone, my medical records, my appointments, my notifications, my medication, my test results, and I can share my medical records with a doctor anywhere in the world.
Right. So you're saying we should consider that. Right. So that's, remember I said earlier that we are implementing a health information system. It's a $8 million US project. It's now being implemented to network these institutions, and the reason for that is to allow for electronic recording and transmission of patient data on a secure platform. Indeed, in COVID, we did use technology a lot. We delivered medication to geriatric patients who couldn't go outside. We maintained a telemedicine type feature for people who were at home and needed care. So COVID has made us create new approaches that I think we will continue, but it will be made better. And a similar system to yours will come from that health information system that we're putting together. I want to just close with 2 other little things. First of all, thank you very much. You've been a good audience. And I know CG has some lovely refreshments for you, so the conversation will continue after, plus the rum punch, right, CG? So there are many other programs in Jamaica that you can engage in. And my view on things is that we should allow persons to pursue where their interest is, rather than try to buttonhole them into one interest. So while we're pitching these programs, these are not the only programs. I didn't want to burden you with too many things, but this is an immediate priority of ours. So wherever you can help there. But beyond that, I know a lot of you already play a role in terms of Jamaica. If for no other reason, you send back remittances to your cousin and your uncle down in Clarendon and wherever else, right? Our remittance numbers compete only with tourism receipts. And that's a big part that you play there. But there are 2 other programs that I've been pitching. One is around cancer. That is a big issue in Jamaica. I'm very concerned about it. We're putting in place additional infrastructure to deal with cancer, both breast cancer, which is the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in women, and prostate cancer, which is the leading cause for men. But a big part of it is screening, so early detection. Here I'm told by a doctor at Hartford, the head of that cancer, that some cancers are going down, the rates. And a lot of it is early detection and treatment. In Jamaica, unfortunately, there are some idiosyncrasies, stigma, if you will, around doing checks. Prostate cancer, for example, our men feel like we're violating them if we insert the finger to check if their prostate is enlarged and so on. So a big part of it is education and also taking the checks to them in their communities. So one of the things we're pitching is developing mobile clinics for testing. So we drive into the community. We mobilize the community leaders like the church, the faith-based leadership, which is normally very strong, or the JP or whomever, and we get the people to come out and to be tested on site, as opposed to them coming to the test site at a hospital or health center. And the same for breast cancer. So I just want to say that if you have an interest in supporting that kind of initiative, speak to me. I'll be happy to guide you on that. I have a personal interest, let me declare hands, because my mother died from breast cancer at 64. And she never declared it, even though she had the lump for a long time, because she was afraid. And I've known many people who have had prostate. So it's something that I've taken a personal interest in, but it is needed. And it is the fastest rate of cancer-related deaths in Jamaica, both breast and the other is a smaller program, again, with a personal interest, which I believe all you can relate to, or most of you. So we have a program called Soul to Soul. That's SOLE, the number 2, SOLE, Soul to Soul. That is about giving soft shoes to school students who cannot afford a soft shoes. And it was created out of a need and experience. In my days, when I used to go to school, there are many of us who couldn't afford a running shoes. So we play football barefooted, or we use the hard shoes, but we didn't make the mother know, because if we ever mash up the shoes that's supposed to go to school is another problem. So culturally, it was a normal part of the thing. Part of the problem now that we face in public health is premature illness. The global school health survey that we do every 3-4 years is suggesting a real rapid rise in premature illness among our younger age cohort, largely because of sedentary lifestyle. Our kids are now playing on the phone or on the video games. They eat the chips and the salt and the sweet, and they don't play anymore. They don't go out. Of course, that's amplified by if they don't have the facilities. So we're working with the ministry to bring back PE in a very active way. But I see a personal need for gifting these less privileged children with soft shoes where they can't afford it. We have given out about 800 pairs already. Basically, we go with the guidance counselors, the principals. We measure the feet. Once they identify the kids who need it, we purchase the shoes, we take it to the school, we give them. And as I said to CG, the happiest face you ever see is a child without a running shoes, and you give him a nice, colorful pair of sneakers with a little cut-off socks. I'm happy for about, he's motivated, put it that way, right? Because he otherwise couldn't afford it. So we're trying to establish some links with people who may want to support that cause, or entities that have the shoes and would want to do it even at a discounted rate type of thing. So I just mentioned those two to you, but it's all in your decision. We still are promoting the clinic and the CodeCare as the primary thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our Honorable Minister, for those very, 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 very interesting words. We will now have a symbolic handover of our oxygen concentrator.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. Minister, a few months ago, we received word that we had some issues with oxygen in the hospital. And so we launched a campaign to raise funds to purchase oxygen concentrated generators. Thus far, we have purchased 21. We have 21 of these here. Can anyone see? Yeah. So these, can I tell you that medicine was never and is not my field, but I've learned so much over the last 2 years, certainly during COVID, and even now. This acronym, PACU, is that how you pronounce it? PACU. Only learned of that this morning. Why am I saying this? I remembered when I heard that we were at risk in Jamaica, losing some patients, COVID patients, that is, because they had no oxygen. And so I thought, what the heck what are we gonna do? And so I made a call to Minister, and what I asked was, can we get oxygen tanks? And the answer immediately was no. What you could do is if you could get oxygen concentrated generators. And my question was, what the heck are those? And so I Googled it. Google is my best friend. And I figured out from Google what was an oxygen concentrated generators. Now, these little bad boys here, of course, Minister can tell you, and of course, Dr. Dixon can tell you, or Dr. Wright, these are the little generators that generate oxygen. And so we have 21 of these in the boxes, brand new, back in the back area. We also have 5 more to collect, and we're here tonight to formally hand over 21 to you tonight. And before Minister speaks, we also have a gift. Did anyone collect the names, Claudette, of the nurses that have signed up yet? We have 2 gifts for the 2 nurses that have signed on tonight. No? No one signed up yet? We have 2 gifts for the first 2 nurses that have signed on. There, Mr. Rochester's. Yes.
Yeah, we have the last check we had was about 80 people have signed up since the Florida stopped. So I'm not sure how many from New York, but or how many are here, but we have about 80 that have signed up online. I don't know if there's anybody here in the audience who are among that 80. But if not, we will ask CG to present it in our absence when they are signed up, because we'll certainly communicate the persons from this jurisdiction who would have signed up. I want to say thanks again to you for your efforts and your team. These will certainly help. Yes, one of my most frightening moments during the COVID pandemic was when we went dangerously close to running out of oxygen. And we knew what the consequences would have been. Not because we weren't prepared, by the way, because we had ordered from the sole supplier who had ordered out of the US, and the state, or I think it's the state government, stopped the shipment because they needed it. And so we ran out. They eventually had to get some from Trinidad. It arrived at about midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning when we were running out at about midnight-ish. So anyway, the long and short of it is that we rescued that. But coming out of that have been the donations. The sizes will impact the extent of usage and who uses it. but these will certainly come in handy. Unfortunately, my suitcase can't hold them to go down, so we're going to have to work together on another means of logistics to get it to Jamaica. Well, you're a real marketing man, you know, I teach you too much.
Let's go with the photo. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. But thanks a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. As we come to the end of this segment of the evening's proceedings, we want to thank our Honorable Minister and his delegation for gracing us this evening, as well as our Ambassador, Ambassador Wallace, our Consul General, a special guest. Yes, yours, Ambassador Richards, gracing us this evening. Our specially invited friends, colleagues, we just want to thank you for being here. In closing, before I take my leave from the lectern, I just want to say to you, the best way to find ourselves is to lose ourselves in the service of others. So on that note, we will now adjourn to the lobby area for some refreshments. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here and enjoy the rest of your evening. Right. As our Honorable Minister stated that we will end with a prayer. All right, so, okay.
So we're going to close. Would you please stand? There's a benediction that most of us know that we sing. So we're going to sing this benediction in closing. The Lord bless you and keep you. How many of you know that? Let's sing together. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. Be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face towards you and give you peace. The peace of God that passes understanding, keep your hearts and your minds. He promises that he will keep you in perfect peace if your mind is stayed on him. Amen. God bless you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We ask you to exit to your right and then into the lobby.